this chapter actually starts with my sermon text for this coming Sunday. The first 8 verses of John chapter 12. But Tom Wright writes this just to get us started. I always hate it when, in a movie or novel, a social event suddenly becomes tense and fraught. People who write novels and screenplays seem to like them. Anger and bitterness bubbling to the surface, family members losing their tempers with each other, and guests looking on in dismay at the collapse of the occasion. Now, for a dramatist, of course, such moments enable all sorts of useful points to be made. The plot can take a new turn, but they make me shudder. A shared meal ought to be a time of support and friendship, not of destruction and violence. Now, part of the tragedy of this opening scene in John 12 is that Jesus badly needs and wants his followers to be united at this moment. The rest of the world is plotting against him. His friends might at least have the decency, you might suppose, to stick together and back him. But no, we can feel the tension crackling in the air. Now, have you ever experienced a shared meal or a social function that turned ugly with tension and strife? How did you respond?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I stayed silent.
You stayed silent.
I just
Wow.
let it work
Boy, that
itself
makes
out.
sense.
Well, I wasn't involved
Oh,
in
okay.
the
People that are
problem.
involved would just stay silent.
No, I
Really
can't.
get my goat.
No, I wouldn't been able to, but no, I
Say
just
something.
let it happen.
I may have made it worse, so I.
That's usually why I don't
Say
do
something.
Yeah.
And John, however, just in his quiet,
Yeah.
demanding, or
Uh-huh.
overpowering, or whatever you want to call it, just said, not here, not now.
And that's that. Not here, not now. All right. All right. Well, let's get to the text. We've got quite a bit. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, of course, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse and used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." Well, let's start here. Verses 2 and 3. What contrast do we see between Martha and Mary?
Martha's a doer. She's busy, 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 busy.
Yeah.
Mary's gonna honor the king, gonna, be that person.
Well, she listened to him before.
Yep, she did, much to Martha's chagrin. Remember, when Jesus finally comes to Bethany, it's not Mary who runs out to him. It's Martha, of course, who runs out to him. And then Mary comes out later, after, I guess, a period of contemplation. So, yeah, again, Martha is the servant. Mary takes this opportunity to steal center stage. And so, by her apparently outrageous gesture of anointing Jesus' feet and wiping them with her hair. Now, one thing you may miss, she would need to let it down for the purpose. And that's roughly the equivalent at a modern polite dinner party of a woman hitching up a long skirt to the top of her thighs.
Ah,
It was.
Mm.
The hair coming down was,
They didn't have their hair
no,
out.
no. Well, but what do you think motivated Mary to behave in such an extreme way?
She understood what Jesus had said.
yeah,
She seemed to.
Yeah.
She seemed to.
I think that was something she felt so strongly, it wasn't something she probably even controlled. Just did it. From her
What
heart.
had Jesus just done for them?
Raised her.
Brought their brother back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and Mary, there's nothing she would not do for him.
I think it was her way of showing him how much she loved him.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Because after having said what you said about her hair.
Yeah, that's, yeah. And that's not, that's just of the times.
Yes.
The lowered hair spoke to that kind of thing. So, yeah. Well, there's no escaping the challenge posed by the standoff between Mary and Judas. Now, if we didn't have these parenthetical, these editorial comments, I don't know if you're in your Bible, are they in parentheses? These comments that John makes about Judas?
They're not.
Oh,
They
yeah.
should be.
The
Yeah,
one who
they're
was
in
about to
parentheses.
betray him.
The one who was about to betray him.
He who was about to betray him.
And he said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief.
I
If we,
apologize, mine is in
yeah, if
parentheses.
we take those parenthetical comments out, it makes it even more, I mean, Judas, it kind of steals Judas's thunder here a bit. But we can't escape it. Extravagant wastefulness of Mary versus prudent caution, Judas. And then there's Martha's faithful, almost unnoticed service. Tom Wright invites us to put aside your natural inclination to distance yourself from Judas and answer this question. Where are you in this picture? Which character, Mary, Martha,
I'm a Martha.
she's the queen of Marthas.
Well,
But
I'm a
anyway,
twin.
but let's it's okay, we got Marthas. All right, fine, well, y'all can't have them, you gotta pick somebody else. Mary, Martha, or Judas. Which one of those do you identify with?
I
Yeah.
would hate to say it, but in a small sense, I can see someone saying, this money could have been used for the poor.
Absolutely, prudent caution. Yeah.
I'd have been like Judas, I'd said something about the wasteful money.
Yeah,
300 denarii is what,
a year's
It's
wage.
almost a year's wages, yeah. Denarii is a day wage, so, yeah, it's almost a year's wages. Right? So, yeah. I think most folks would identify with Judas. We would all hope to be Mary in this story. But some of us are just Martha. Can't help it. Just gotta serve, right?
Don't really know where the other disciples stood on this either. They may have just been scared to say anything.
They were, yeah, and you know what?
Well, they might have been shocked.
Some of us might be in that group in this story. We might be with Peter and the rest of them, just kind of sitting there going,
Oh, my.
what is going on? And questioning the appropriateness of this along with Judas, but maybe for different reasons. Maybe the inappropriateness of Mary's letting her hair down and all that signified. In
My-
that moment. Go ahead.
My Bible note
Yeah.
says, since it was very expensive, Mary's act of devotion was costly. It was also an unusual act, both because she poured the oil on Jesus' feet, normally it was poured on the head, and because she used her hair to wipe them. A respectable woman did not unbind her hair in public. Further, it showed her humility, for it was a servant's work to attend to the feet.
Well, and Jesus says, she bought it for my burial.
That's interesting right there. Yeah.
I'm wondering if the when you say unbound her hair, is the fact that she just took that hood off of that coat she took off her head. And in this day and time, then a lot of women who weren't married supposed to have something over their face too, or they just tear up.
The Greek word here is unbinding it, and it's the same word, unbind him and let him go. It's the idea of your hair being up in a bun, and you release it. I can't do it, but yeah, it just all comes falling down on both sides. So, yeah. So, but yeah, all of that is correct. It's good stuff. Hey, we got a small story here. The next one, verses 9, 10, and 11. Somebody read that for us. It's crazy.
When the large crowd of the Jews learned that Jesus was there, they came, not only on account of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of him, many of the Jews were going away and believing in Jesus.
Tie up loose ends, man. And one of my favorite shows is The Blacklist. Raymond Reddington and James Spader. It's all about tying up loose ends. We don't leave any loose ends, But yeah, I mean, you can imagine Lazarus's reply to that. Well, go ahead. I mean, I died once, Go ahead and give it your best shot, But this is something. Why, though, are they going to kill Lazarus too? What's the main reason? Right there in verse 11.
because people saw him come up from the dead.
Well, yeah, on account of him that many of the Jews were deserting. There we go. Deserting and believing in Jesus. Yeah. And, I would hope that I would too, right? All right, next up, the triumphal entry, according to John. Let's read 12 through 19. Beautiful story.
The next day, the great crowd that had come to the festival heard that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem. So they took branches of palm trees and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel." Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as it is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter of Zion. Look, your king is coming, sitting on a donkey's colt." His disciples did not understand these things at first, but when Jesus was glorified, then they remembered that these things had been written of him and had been done to him. So the crowd that had been with him when he called Lazarus out of the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to testify. It was also because they heard that he had performed this sign that the crowd went to meet him. The Pharisees then said to one another, "You see, you can do nothing. Look, the world has gone after him."
Wow.
All right, so it's the wrong time of year, but the symbols of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem go with Hanukkah, which John already mentioned back in chapter 10. When Judas Maccabeus defeated the pagan invaders and cleansed the temple in 164 BC, his followers entered the city waving palm branches in celebration. I'll give you there's a couple of references here, but this is from the apocryphal book, First Maccabees. On the 23rd day of the second month in the 171st year, the Jews entered it with praise and palm branches and with harps and cymbals and stringed instruments and with hymns and songs, because a great enemy had been crushed and removed from Israel. And then again in 2 Maccabees chapter 10, verse 7, it says, "Therefore, bearing ivy-wreathed wands and beautiful branches and also fronds of palm, they offered hymns of thanksgiving to him who had given success to the purifying of his own holy place." That was Judas Maccabeus, who was installed. It's called the Hasmonean dynasty. That was his family. So that's where the palm branches came from. Now, even though it's in the spring, not midwinter when Hanukkah is celebrated, Jesus' followers wave palm branches to welcome him. And we don't have to look far to find out why. Hanukkah was when Judas Maccabeus and his family became kings of Israel. Jesus and his followers were, so to speak, bringing together Hanukkah and Passover. They were saying both that Jesus was the true king, come to claim his throne, and that this was the moment when God would set Israel free once and for all. Now, the ride on the donkey, with its echo of Zechariah 9:9, makes the same point. Here it is from the Old Testament. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion, shout aloud, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you, righteous and having salvation is he, humble and mounted on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. So that's that reference there from Zechariah. It makes the same point as the palm branches. John adds other echoes of prophecies and psalms, which all point in the same direction. Jesus is the true king, coming at last to set his people free. Now, look again at verse 19. What tone of voice do you think the Pharisees used? And what were they suggesting when they said, look, the world has gone after him? What do you think their tone of voice is?
Probably exasperated.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Pure exasperation. I mean, look, the world is, and it's an interesting thing to say, because in the very next section, indeed, the world is going after him. So let's have somebody read verses 20 through 26.
Now among those who went up to worship at the festival were some Greeks. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and said to him, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. Philip went and told Andrew. Then Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. Jesus answered them, The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly, I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Those who love their life lose it, and those who hate the life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, they will my servant be also. Whoever serves me, this Father will honor.
All right, so immediately following the Pharisees' statement in verse 19, some foreigners approach the disciples. They want to see Jesus. What does John want us to see in connecting these two events? The Pharisees' statement and the foreigners' coming. What's he want us to see?
That all people are coming.
Remember way back in John 3, with Nick at night, Jesus says to him, God so loved the world. Jesus himself says, in John 10, he says, I have other sheep that are not of this fold. I must draw them in as well. Here we have kind of a fulfillment of that. It is interesting that it is this, the Greeks asking to see him, that it's this, that then he breaks into this ecstasy. Now, the hour, it's here. The hour has come. That's really, really something. Jesus tells his mother in John 2:4, remember way back at the wedding at Cana, when she says, they're out of wine. And he says to her, my time hasn't come. He told her that. John makes a similar comment in 7:30. Says, so they were seeking to arrest him, but no one laid a hand on him because his hour had not yet come. And now in 12:23, he says, the time has come. What is the time that has come? And how does that connect to Jesus' strange comment about a seed being planted and die?
Makes a lot of sense.
All right. Well, what's the time?
It's crucifixion.
Yes, and resurrection.
And in John's gospel, that was the moment of his enthronement, glorification. But it is in such an interesting way. He starts to tell a story about a seed being buried in the earth. And again, it's just one of those frustrating things. My students are even catching on now in one of the classes. Why doesn't he ever just answer a question? I said, you can ask him one day.
Right.
I don't know, He does. You just have to dig around for it, No, but yeah, this is the hour of his glorification. It's his crucifixion, yeah, his glorification. So, what does Jesus say that this has to do with those who would follow him? Oh, stop. Sorry, it's the speaker.
He says
What does he say?
whoever follows him, whoever serves him, the Father will honor.
You must follow me.
They're gonna end up with the same,
That's right.
same
Yes.
situation, being
Yes.
killed.
Yes, right? That's good, yeah. All right, we got time, I think, for this last section. I'll take it. All right. There's just all kinds of super noises. It's great, isn't it?
Sorry,
I know, I like it. That's okay.
that wasn't me.
Jesus is speaking here. Now my soul is troubled, and what should I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it is for this reason that I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The crowd standing there heard it and said that it was thunder. Others said, an angel has spoken to him. Jesus answered, this voice has come for your sake, not for mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be driven out, and I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. He said this to indicate the kind of death he was to die. The crowd answered him, we have heard from the law that the Messiah remains forever. How can you say that the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Jesus said to them, the light is with you for a little longer. Walk while you have the light, so that the darkness may not overtake you. If you walk in the darkness, you do not know where you are going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become children of light. All right, let's pick up here. The Word that had become flesh, the one in whom the Father's own love and power were truly seen, the one who healed the sick, turned water into wine, opened blind eyes, and raised Lazarus to life, he was troubled, deeply troubled, troubled right down in his heart. Now, Jesus' picture of God was big enough that he could still have a troubled spirit. There are some hints here, and we want to try to find them, that suggest how our understanding of God can still allow us to also have emotions such as these. There are hints in these verses. And let's just see if we can find some of them. What hints are there in 27 to 36 that suggest how our understanding of God can still allow us to also have emotions such as these?
Well, a voice came from heaven
Yeah,
and told him, I have glorified it and I'll glorify it again.
yeah,
It's kind of like comforting,
yes.
or
Yeah.
maybe not comforting, but putting the exclamation point on what Jesus has been saying.
Yeah, gives a seal of approval as well. Yes. That these feelings that we have of sorrow, of sadness, of deeply troubledness, if you will, are all valid and all welcome before God the Father. And he honors those feelings. And you only need to go to the Psalms to see over and over and over again where that comes to be. All right. Let me see what else we got here. Oh, we got it. John's been telling us the story. One of the things about John's Gospels, if you take it and look at it, at front, step back, he's been telling us the story of new creation. The signs have been building up water into wine in chapter 2. Remember that one? I have a meme on my phone. I just haven't had the guts to send it out. It's Jesus coming. He says, non-alcoholic? It's water. He says, yes, it's water. And then in the next one, he goes, he's winking. The water into wine in chapter 2, then we have the nobleman's son in chapter 4. Remember that? Yeah. The healing of the cripple in chapter 5. Do you want to be made well? Right? The bread in the desert in chapter 6, the feeding of the 5,000. The man born blind in chapter 9, and most recently, the raising of Lazarus in chapter 11. And John has hinted, and will say again later, that Jesus did many, many other signs as well. These 6 are just the tip of the iceberg, selected to make their individual points about new creation, new dimensions to God's work, new exodus, new life. And yet, though he had done all these things, they still didn't believe. Pharaoh refused to believe despite the powerful signs Moses produced in Exodus 8 through 12. But now, let's read verses 37 through 43. Somebody pick that up.
Though he had done so many signs before them, they still did not believe in him, so that the words spoken by the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. Lord, who has believed what he heard from us, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, for again Isaiah said, He has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their heart, and turn, and I would heal them. Sit down to 44.
Yeah, 43, yes, ma'am.
43. Isaiah said these things because he saw his glory and spoke of him. Nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they love the glory that comes from the man more than the glory that comes from God.
All right, thank you. So the question here is, just as Pharaoh refused to believe, despite Moses' signs, to what does John, and he recalls words from Isaiah 53 and Isaiah 6, to what does he attribute the people's continued lack of belief?
Well, the Pharisees didn't want to give up, and the priesthood didn't want to give up the temple.
They love the praise from men more than they love
Yeah.
God.
And there's also a bit of responsibility on God's part here. He has blinded their eyes.
He did.
That's always troubling to me. Not that God would do that, but it's
And harden their
Harden their
hearts.
hearts.
hard in their hearts, you know? It's like, it just reconciling that with like Pharaoh hardening his heart. And some of it, Pharaoh hardens his heart. Then he says, I'll let him go. But God hardens Pharaoh's heart. And then he said, but then the next time it's Pharaoh that hardens his heart. But then the next time it's God that got it, I mean, it's just, you can be a little, when you're trying to read it. Yeah, go ahead.
It's like God has a timetable, and there's a certain time that things are gonna happen. If it's going too fast, he slows it down.
Could very well be. Yes, absolutely. Jesus said himself, my hour has not yet come, several times, right? So, but yes, everything y'all said is absolutely right. Their power, there was fear, on the part of just the lay folks, that they would be put out of the synagogue. Remember back with the guy born blind, his parents, with parents like that, ask him, he's of age. We're gonna go back and worship, thank you. Here's the 20, but they were afraid, they were there. But they love human glory more than the glory that comes from God. And unbelievably, that leads us to the last section. And I'll take us home here. Jesus cries out again. Oh, by the way, I didn't read the second part of verse 36 while I was reading it. Interestingly enough, after Jesus had said this, while you have the light, believe in the light so that you may become children of light. After Jesus had said this, he departed and hid from them. But then from somewhere, in verse 44, he's hid from them. But it's like he has, wait, I got a couple of things more to say. So from somewhere, Jesus cried aloud, whoever believes in me, believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And whoever sees me, sees him who sent me. I have come as light into the world, so that everyone who believes in me should not remain in the darkness. I do not judge anyone who hears my words and does not keep them, for I came not to judge the world, but to save the world. The one who rejects me and does not receive my word has a judge. On the last day, the word that I have spoken will serve as judge. For I have not spoken on my own, but the Father who sent me has himself given me a commandment about what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal life. When I speak, therefore, I speak just as the Father has told me. And that kind of stands as a summary of Jesus' teaching up to this point in the gospel. So, the last section, last question. Jesus speaks to the crowds in Jerusalem for the last time. The next time they see him, it will be as a prisoner. We're in Holy Week now. Standing before Pilate. He will be on trial, and his words will be sifted as evidence against him. How do you respond to the stupendous claims Jesus makes there? What does he claim?
And everything he said has come from God.
That's right. That's right. Also says he didn't come to judge. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I
Well,
think,
we've heard that before.
I think it's a summary of everything that
It
he's
really
ever
is.
said.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, and it kind of ties all the loose strings together, if you were listening.
Yeah, John's a good writer. He brings this summary right before we turn for the next 5 chapters, the longest dialogues, the longest speeches of Jesus that we have in the New Testament, and prayers are coming. All on Monday, Thursday, which we're going to start looking at next week, Lord willing. Tom gives us a prayer prompt here for thanks. To give thanks to God that in the death and resurrection of Jesus, the dark ruler of this world was overthrown and the new creation was born. To ask that God would give us a heart that truly believes in Jesus and is courageous enough to say so in the presence of others who might not understand or support our faith. It's always a good thing, isn't it? Yeah. So this is it. The next time they see him, Ecce homo, behold the man, will be the next time that these crowds see him.
Is it the same crowds? Because
I don't know.
when they're all calling for his crucifixion, it's like the crazy stuff we have going on now. One crowd says one thing and then they yell whatever, and another crowd does the other.
I don't know. None of the Gospels indicate. They don't indicate that it was, and they don't indicate that it wasn't. So just kind of, if I had to guess, probably some of them, but certainly not all of them. There's certainly an organized mob at the trial before Pilate.
From the Fridays when we do the stations,
Yeah.
there's a group of women that are mourning for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So they're not all, no. And speaking of the stations, I'll go ahead and mention this here. We're going to be doing on Good Friday evening, we're going to be doing the traditional stations, but we're going to be doing them from the Book of Common Prayer. And I had just came upon this week, this Episcopalian Anglican traditional stations with the different things, different readings, different responses, and you're going to want to be here for that. They're pretty awesome. We're not jettisoning the others. We're going to do the others too. But no, we really are. We're excited about it. I made her be excited about it.
Well, no, he asked me to look at it and see what I thought, and the more I read of each of the stations, it's really good. It's really good. I think it will enhance our
Yeah.
walks through the stations, doing the ones we're doing now, but adding this one to
We're not gonna
it.
do both in the same night,
No.
don't worry about that.
No.
We're gonna do-
This would just be a
So yeah,
one
that'd be
night,
fun,
but
yeah.
I liked it. I thought,
Same number, 14?
14, yes, sir, yep. All right, so I thank you very much, Mr. Obi, for being with us tonight, and thank everybody for being here. Lord willing, next Wednesday, I know that Hinton and Linnell will not be here, and I hope they'll be having fun until their daddy takes the T-bird away, right? All right, so everybody take care, God bless, and have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye-bye.